Over a year ago, I started watching this little anime called Symphogear. It had its humble beginnings, but nonetheless, it was a very solid first outing showing how unique and original the series is. Then, Season 2 came around, and while it wasn't as good as its introductory season, a lot of the formula that Then Symphogear Seasons 3 and 4, which fully realized what the series would be, and both were well-made seasons of anime in general. But all good things must come to an end, and after a delay from winter to summer 2019, Symphogear XV promises to be a send-off that fans have always wanted. And by the fact that it is the highest rated new anime of summer 2019, even above Vinland Saga, well, in my opinion, Symphogear has earned every bit of praise they're getting this season. It's also worth to note before we get into this review proper that YouTube determines my worth based off interaction, which means the more likes, the more subscribers, the more comments, the more the bell being rang, stuff like that. That basically tells YouTube that they should push these videos out to more people. And what does that mean for me? It means my channel can grow. So if you guys can help me out by giving this video a like or comment or something like that, I would greatly appreciate it. So thank you all for watching, and thanks everyone for helping me out. Let's get into the video. After conquering their fiercest foes, Hibiki, Chris, Tsubasa, and the rest of the Symphogears are at the top of their game. Underdogs no more, they have defeated everyone and stand as humanity's defenders from all evil. But while they are the underdogs no more, a new group has taken it upon themselves to fight from beneath to once again possibly become human at all costs after being transformed into monsters. Enter Noble Red, Vanessa, Elsa, and Milark, who have been dealt a bad hand in life and are forced to do the bidding of those which turned them into the monsters they are now. Their only goal is to stop the Symphogears to regain their humanity, and the best way to do that is to conquer and divide. This season of Symphogear is one for the fans, with amazing fights, callbacks to literally every season and character arc. Symphogear is now the ultimate form of fan service. This is Symphogear XV. The studio behind such anime like Hellsing Ultimate and Log Horizon are back with Symphogear XV, and no, I'm not talking about Madhouse. This is the 5th and final season in the long-running Symphogear franchise, which started back in 2012. It is directed by Katsumi Ono, who directed all of the previous seasons of Symphogear, and is also known for directing some of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. It's 13 episodes in length, and is exclusively available on Crunchyroll and VRV subbed, along with all of the previous seasons. Symphogear has always had an issue with one thing, and that it seems to sometimes get too ambitious with its plot, which in turn sometimes hurts the show. This is easily identifiable in Season 2 with some of the confusing leaps of logic the show takes to get where it needs to go. And that's not to say that Symphogear doesn't already take immense leaps of logic as is. That's just how Symphogear is, much like how Dragon Ball Z is Dragon Ball Z. And, much like Dragon Ball Z, one of this season's many inspirations, the show is usually almost always better off and even more entertaining than if it had your standard run-of-the-mill logical writing. What I'm saying is that the show has its own identity, like, say, a Kill La Kill does. In fact, I would say there are times when Symphogear out-Kill La Kills Kill La Kill in some instances. But in Symphogear XV, the writing is incredibly refined, much more so than in any other season of Symphogear, barring some of Season 4, which also was really good. This season of Symphogear aims to please its fans with callbacks and references to every other season. I've never in my life seen a show like Symphogear bringing back characters, calling back to them, addressing them in the plot, and even fleshing out character backstories from even Season 1. Everything, and I mean literally everything, in the previous seasons of Symphogear get an on-screen callback or a verbal shoutout. As a fan of Symphogear, this is what I and everyone else who is a fan of the series ever wanted with this season, and they use these callbacks to develop each character arc and close them out. By the end of the series, each character story is complete and the book can be closed on them. Extreme care and effort was put into this season in every facet, but the writing and story takes the cake here. It's the best part of this season. The show focuses on the human side of Symphogears, which has been something that's been a staple of Symphogears since around the 3rd season, with Hibiki's family being a major story arc for her character. Hibiki and Miku are much closer, and dare I say, a couple at this point in Symphogear, and a big part of this season is their relationship and showing how they've grown together throughout the series. Hibiki's family life isn't simple, and I love this part of the season so much. By the end of this series, Hibiki has found what she wants to fight for, and it's satisfying to see that realization. Tsubasa has probably the best arc in this season though, as the show focuses on her the most here. This is quite simply the best her character has ever been. In the first 3 seasons of the series, Tsubasa was your basic old samurai influenced style character. She wasn't bad per se, but she was, to put simply, there, and she filled her role pretty nicely. But in these last 2 seasons, Tsubasa really became a fleshed out and developed character. Chris Chan is my religion, and as a follower, I really was kinda let down by her offering. Besides her kick-ass transformation sequence and English moments, Chris still didn't get this massive development that I expected her to get. Still, to this day, her best moments for character development are probably in Season 1. But in general, this is likely the best she's fared since that season in terms of just getting her moments to shine. I think, like most people, Chris is just one of those characters you love to love because she's that super tsundere bubblegum pop kind of character people have really just in general come to enjoy in anime. But outside of her not really getting a massive character arc like Hibiki, Miku, and Tsubasa, Chris is still Chris, and she's awesome. The murder lollies, Kirika and Shirabe, are back, and at this point in the show, they've become the comedic relief and the voice of the audience. If there is a moment where you thought, wow, I would love for them to bring up how ridiculous going to the moon is at this point, well, Kira and Shira are there to say that they've always secretly kind of wanted to go to the moon. They're honestly a set of characters which has grown on me over the seasons, and I think this is the best version of them for sure. Finally, we have Maria, who probably should be my girlfriend but isn't, and now I'm sad. Joking aside and weepiness and cringiness aside, Maria in this season was awesome. The best she's been since her introduction as the series antagonist in Season 2. Season 3 and 4 really had her on the back burners in a role similar to Chris in that regard, but Season 5 makes her an important character in this season, acting as Tsubasa's second, if you catch my drift. Her role in this series is to make the impact of Tsubasa's development that much more important. And her boobs are so strong they can break steel. That's incredible. And on the antagonist side, Noble Red really became my favorite antagonist in the series ever. Not only did they play their role perfectly in that sense, they had a human backstory which got us connected to their struggle, and sorta, you kinda really wanted them to succeed in turning back into humans. Their arcs were satisfying and heartfelt, even emotional at times, which is strange for Symphogear because the only emotion I usually feel is, fuck yeah, these explosions are awesome, we need more Chris Chan. So, yeah, I really like Noble Red, and they had amazing moments like Milark with the flying crotch attack, and of course, Vanessa's honest to literal god boob rockets. Satellite delayed this season this year to the summer, and I'm so glad that they did that. This season has some of the finest production this year, which based off Season 4 isn't much of a leap, but I truly wasn't ready for how well they made this show look. Character designs were absolutely phenomenal in this series and looked amazing here. I won't say too much in terms of the transformations, but by the end, these characters are absolutely stunning in their, shall we say, final forms. It just feels like this season is the Symphogear the fans have come to love, but at the highest budgets that they could fathom for this project. I made the comparison in my last 2 Symphogear videos, links in the description to the playlist, but this season of Symphogear seemed to take a lot away from Ufotable's presentation and just straight up used some of it for Symphogear. And you know what? It absolutely works, which, I mean, why wouldn't it? Symphogear is a sum of its parts, and one of these parts is its influences, which has references all the way from DBZ to JoJo to even Evangelion. But as for backgrounds, this is another aspect that the show really improved on. And while there are no Ufotable sprawling cityscapes, they're absolutely the best the series has ever been in that regard. Symphogear XV looks stunning, and this is the best version of Symphogear in terms of art. Animation, on the other hand, is spectacular. By far the best animation the series has ever had. God, what did I just say? And I would say this is where the series takes the most from in terms of inspirations, oddly enough. Lots of fights are your traditional over-the-top action like you'd see in something like Bayonetta, as an example. That's a interesting comparison, but it's fairly true. But this time, the fights feel so much more distinct. There are times where I am watching a major fight and get a weird nostalgic feeling. Well, it turns out that I've noticed that this season really is like Dragon Ball Z Light, with a lot of fights we see. It's very noticeable in the last battles with the beam struggles, but honest to God, Symphogear watches like Dragon Ball Z at times because it just feels like Dragon Ball Z sometimes. Otherwise, the fights in this anime in general are spectacular. Oh, I'm sorry, I should say spectacular! And the series still continues the tradition of blowing everything up in the most spectacular and unexpected ways. Elements Garden returns to score this season of Symphogear, and I can't say this enough, but this is one of the best scores this year. Truly, Elements Garden outdid themselves in this regard, as the score has no right to be this good. None. Every episode they nailed the music, and there wasn't a moment where I wasn't captivated, in part because of how well done the score was. This is one I will for sure be adding to my collection when I import it from Japan. As well, the opening and endings continue the tradition of Tsubasa's voice actress handling the opening and Chris's actress handling the ending, and these are actually my favorite OPs and EDs for Symphogear for sure. I must say, and I can't stress this enough, but Symphogear's score is one of the best this year and the best this series has ever got. I can't believe this series is actually over. Symphogear ended its series on a high note with one of the best narratives the series itself has ever had. From the references to its inspirations like DBZ, JoJo, and Evangelion, to the time and care it took to make sure each and every character from every season had a proper send-off, and to its almost Fate-like visual presentation and DBZ-esque battles. Symphogear XV deserves all the praise it's gotten. Symphogear XV isn't just a great Symphogear season, it's a great anime now, and one of the best shows of this season. I know that's hard to believe, but hear me out. Trust me on this one. Get out there and give Symphogear a shot. There is no better time to be curious in Symphogear than now. I'm going to miss this series. So thank you to Satellite, the directors, the creators, the animators, even Elements Garden, for making it one of my favorite final seasons I've ever seen. Truly, every single person pulled their weight. I don't know how else to say this, but this is the best Symphogear season ever. But it doesn't end there. I still have more Symphogear videos coming, of course. I have a video on the ending of Symphogear XV. I have reviews of seasons 2 through 4 still to come out, and I already have reviews of seasons 1 and a bunch of other stuff that I've already done. But also, check this out. Me and Rising Sun Reviews did a podcast for every episode of Symphogear. It ended just the other night for episode 13, and I recommend you all definitely go check that out, because we give every episode a pretty good discussion, and we give the series a proper send-off, and we basically just share with the audience how much we love Symphogear in these podcasts. So if you're a fan of Symphogear, if you're just getting into it, or if you're going through and watching the seasons and you're going to be on season 5 here soon, it's worth it. Definitely go check out our podcasts on those last 13 episodes of the series. So thank you for the 65 episodes of Symphogear we got. Thanks to the creators for that. And this isn't the last Symphogear video, but I'm gonna miss the series, that's for certain. If you haven't already, make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell. Note on Patreon, on the $1 tier and above, you can get literally access to everything, including a bunch of new shows. Patreon's gonna be getting an overhaul soon, so definitely look out for that. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.